Hello. Very cold day. Yeah, I know I look like a homeless guy. I don't care. Um, Still. So recently I was asked a question, um, and that question was, what was the most soul-stirring thing that has ever happened to me? Great icebreaker, huh? um, and yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, it kind of stumped me. I've never been asked that question before. So I've been ruminating on it for a little while, chewing the fat, as they say. Um, the answer I gave was ego death, or as some call it, the dark night of the soul. And that's not entirely accurate, though, because those were the end results of the events that were so soul stirring, soulful, I guess. Um, so it's been a combination of a lot of things, really. And as I told this person, I don't think I could narrow it down to a single event or experience. It's been a combination of a lot of things. Um, some of you know that I am an addict in recovery. I've got about 15 months sobriety now, this time. In the last 20 years, I've had about 9 years interrupted. I think the longest stretch I had was 4.5 years. Um, so it's been, a lot of things. It's been a combination, and you know, my last relapse was different than a lot of my others, in several different ways. I don't know if I could even quantify. It just felt different. It didn't feel. This is going to sound very strange, but it didn't feel like it was 100% me. It didn't feel like a total relapse, which is very odd to say. That and my drug of choice had actually changed slightly. It's still the same process. It's still some form of escapism or whatever. So, what was a soul stirring event? The events that led up to that relapse um, were definitely extremely impactful. Um, my mother had a pretty severe stroke, or several strokes, I should say. I got overwhelmed. The person I was with had drawn a line in the sand, and I stepped over it, and they rightly chose to leave, um, and put up boundaries. That, of course, me being in an emotional state, pushed those boundaries, and of course, I had to put up even more. Um, that was a big part of it. Basically, realizing and taking full responsibility and accountability for where my life was at. I've done videos on that too, on accountability. So it's been a combination of a lot of things. Um, it's funny. You tell people about ego death, and most people, myself included, for a very long time, you hear the word ego, you think egotistical or arrogance or even narcissism, or one of these other terms. And that's not what it means. Sure, those are all byproducts of either an over or underinflated ego. Ironically, both produce similar behavior. Um, the whole function of the ego is to protect the id, or the inner identity, the inner child. essentially it reinforces what the subconscious mind is always seeking. Um, but it's realizing that the way you've been doing things isn't working. Um, and what I mean by that is it's not working for your higher self. It's not working for your soul or your soul's purpose or what your soul truly wants to experience. And see, that's not entirely accurate or true either. But that's a whole nother video. Anyway, God, it's hard to explain in very succinct terms. And it's probably because it's something that needs to be experienced, just like love, God, magic, all of these things. You can explain to a certain point, and then you just get to a point where you're talking in circles because it's beyond description. It's the same reason we close our eyes when we kiss, because it's not something it's meant to be experienced and felt. So to answer the question, what was the most soul-stirring thing I've ever experienced? It, I guess if I had to put it into a sentence, it would be the most soul-stirring experience was completely tearing down and sacrificing everything in my life that I loved. The end result of that was a tremendous amount of growth and taking accountability for everything in my life, where I'm at, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. Regardless of what you're doing or who you're doing it with, you play a part in the way you feel. As a matter of fact, no one else is responsible for the way you feel except you. And there's a lot of people who don't understand that. And it's a very tough lesson to learn. It really is. But once you start to take accountability for all of those things, the ego, it doesn't change, but what changes is your reliance on it. What changes is your sense of self-worth and where that comes from. There's a couple acronyms for the word ego. One is edging God out. I prefer emotionally motivated outburst, but same difference. So yeah, it was a lot of things. It was a massive amount of heartbreak that was brought on about because of my own choices and decisions. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I have completely forgiven myself for that, because I haven't. I've done a lot of work towards it, for sure, absolutely. But I still take a lot of responsibility for that particular event. Not only did I break this person's heart, but I broke mine as well. And I can't even say that. It's not really that I broke the heart, it's I broke mine open. That's what happened with that event. And the combination of a whole lot of little other things that happened coinciding with that, and certain experiences I had during my last relapse and everything else. In that regard, it happened the way it was supposed to happen. As painful as it was. And it was painful. I still have a very strong connection with that person, actually. We don't speak, but I can still feel them. And that's part of the events that led to all of this, is experiencing that level of connection and bond with somebody deeper than I've ever felt in my life. And I've had a lot of very deep connections.